Now, last time we worked on this, we had a little bit of a setback, and we've decided, after careful thought and thinking about what the options are, we'll save that fairing, which is a fairing, a single headlight FZR that is not an exact fit and had too many clearance issues. I would have had a lot of work to make that fit. It's going to be a lot easier to take the original part and remove the finish. Now, every one of these bikes that I've restored, there's been issues, setbacks. It's par for the course, and anybody that really does restore bikes knows that that's the truth. And when you're trying to keep a bike totally stock, it makes it a little bit easier, but it's never really easy. Now, in this case, one of the things I lose is I'm going to lose the ability to not have a joint in the front of the fairing, so I'm going to have a lot of body work. And I thought of a way I want to handle that, probably a way that would work for any similar project. But just thinking, one of the things I've gained is I know that all the lower fairings will line up and I won't have any clearance issues with the handlebar or the windshield. So I've won on one side of this, I've lost on the other side, but overall I don't have a choice, so I'm moving on. Now, I was really trying to think this through and think about all the choices I had. I even have Najat's whole set of Ducati bodywork and from his track day bike, and I was thinking maybe I could fit that up, make it look like a Ducati. Well, I know the problem is I was losing my mind late at night thinking about how I wanted to do this. So the first thing I want to do here is take the windshield off and decide how I want to reinforce that headlight area before I remove the paint. Now, years ago when I made these pieces, I had no idea I was ever going to do this filling in process, and I'm trying to figure out how level this is. This is not going to be a real easy job. I thought this was going to be a lot easier, and this is why I originally ordered the replacement part. If I knew about the double headlight, single headlight, and all those things, well, but that's why the videos are worthwhile. You can share that information. So step one is going to be just to pull a windshield off first before I do anything. So now I pretty much have to reorient my whole project around this new part. We made this part on past video, I don't know how long ago, a year ago maybe. And the problem was we were cracking windshields. The windshields were cracking from vibration, I guess, or whatever. Even though they're mounted in those rubber grommets. But what happened is I made this one using a regular windshield, and of course that video is still out there. But this one never cracked. So, assuming this is going to be one of the options I can have this, or at least use this for a pattern if I go up the circle cycle and see. I know he has some other windshields there. Maybe the other one will fit, I don't know. But it's amazing how those parts, and I've looked on the AirTech website, they look exactly alike. The same way parts look like for a 600 Suzuki and a 1000. And when you go to fit them, they're just not exactly the same. They have the same curves and shapes and everything. So, and the windshields, when you go to fit a windshield that doesn't belong on a bike, it can be challenging. Now, at this point in the game, while I'm resetting my priorities here, it looks like this windshield is very similar. Not exactly, of course, but it's that same old problem you have all the time. Close but no cigar. Okay, so it could be that we could have the choice of using this, re-drilling it, who the hell knows what. This just gives us one more choice. Now, believe it or not, it does look like this is a pretty close fit. The holes don't line up, of course, but that's a whole nother issue. It's amazing. That does look pretty close. So anyway, I'll consider what the choices are, because I really did want to have at the end of the project a clear windshield. Maybe able to somehow retrofit this in. It's close. It's going to entail, of course, is ultimately filling in the holes and re-drilling new holes, because the windshield already has the holes drilled in it, and this is going to have to be reinforced See, what happened is when I made this part, I never reinforced this properly, so this is going to give us a chance to do this whole thing over right. So step one, I'll get out some simple green, clean this up, and start grinding away. Of course, the idea is I want to start with everything is half clean anyway. And sometimes a setback like this, the day it happens, and it's happened to me of course, is I'm all mad and depressed and angry and angry all the time. But anyway, and in the end I say, you know, where is this going? I'm not getting a lot done today. And then I snap out of it, I suck it up and move on, and then I realize that we may have made the overall job even a little bit better here. But the problem is whenever you bondo over this big area here, I always get nervous about bondo. Boy, oh boy. So what I think I'm going to try to do, I came up with this plan. I'm going to try to do it with some of it or all of it with that thixotropic resin. That real thick resin that I have left over from the aircraft days. And just see how that works out. And ultimately, I think I'm going to want to reinforce this as I did the original one, the first one that we didn't use yet. So you never know where these projects are going to wind up. Before I can really do a whole lot, I've got to get all of the residual road grease and everything off of this. Simple green prep all, anything you can use, even if it's really rough, you can use acetone, but I've got to get it off. Now I noticed after I'm looking at this part, this is the part that came with the bike, I'm noticing how many repairs are already on this. This has the look of, I'm not a brand new part. Then neither am I, so. Anyway, I'll get this cleaned up. I've got to do a little grinding on it, a little sanding. And then I have my little plan of action here for how I'm going to deal with this. But as of now, I don't really know if it's going to work the way I want it to. I'm going to save this. I'll take a heat gun and take that Ferrari sticker off and save that, put that in my little, on my wall of fame over there. And again, thank you, John Cafaro. He worked with me on this and other projects that I needed Ferrari help with. But this part is, you can't imagine how many little cracks and things are on it. But again, it's a 30-year-old part. So this is the fitting little place I found to save the nose badging that we had for all these years while we both street bike, track dayed, and just enjoyed owning this bike. Now it's worth mentioning why I think it's worth restoring this bike, a lot of reasons, but this is just a hell of a fun bike to ride. Now the easiest thing is just to put down an old towel so I can shake off all the dust since I can't work outside right now. And what's funny about this, there's so many repairs on this, I'm not sure exactly how I can patch this up, but I'm going to think about it while I'm trying to get rid of most of this old material. There's at least 3 paint jobs on here, not counting the one that I put on. The factory one and the skulls one, and as I go through I see, boy does this bring back memories. And once I have all of the old finish off of that, I don't need to get any more than that off. And I can take my towel outside and just shake it out like a rag mop. Then I'm going to cut a piece of carbon fiber, the same as I did on the original part, because this is really flimsy. This is part of the problem. I think we have this vibration in the windshield. This needs to be a little stronger. It also gives you an extra strong place to grab the fairing mount. Alright, so this is reinforcing carbon. Of course, this is actually like a Chinese necklace that we used to make exhaust systems out of for model airplanes. So I'm going to do one piece at a time. I'll get this. It's really pretty simple with CA to do this. And it's a way I'm not sure anybody I've ever seen does the reinforcements this way, but they work great. And at least what I know is the ones I've done this way, I've never even seen a spider crack by them. They seem to stand up to the test of time very well. The trick is not to get your hand glued to the part as it starts to kick off, and don't get a face full of the fumes. The fumes can give you a headache. And we're just going to work our way around the whole part. Now that whole part, we're just letting it sit for a minute. Of course, the CA kicks off almost instantly. And then we'll run a couple of coats of thin CA down it. Wipe that with a paper towel. And then trim it off. And that hopefully will really give us some, I hope, some stability there as time goes by. Not having a paint crack. Okay, we got the rough trimming done. The final little bit we have to do with sandpaper. Get the last little bit off the edge and radius that edge this very carefully. Now that's step one of getting this part rejuvenated, and I'm still hoping I'm going to be able to get that front perfect, and I have a couple of ideas that may work in my favor here. I really didn't want to do this, that's why I bought that other part. That worked out just about perfect. And of course, remember, this is dirty, filthy work. So I keep changing the towel, take it outside and shake it. Replace it every so often just to keep the dust down in the shop. Now that's got the whole reinforcement part done. Ready for final sanding, but I'm not going to worry about sanding it right now. I want to get the reinforcement for this main part in. I put tape over all the joints, so any work, any extra, we're going to do this with epoxy, any epoxy will not drip out and come down onto the work table. Now what I want to do before I go into the epoxy part, all of these, the holes, the bolt holes, I'm going to fill with thin CA, with thick CA. Now the reason for this is, and of course the carbon fiber keeps it from leaking back down in. Hit it with a little bit of kicker. We'll block sand that out nice and level, of course. In the final, now these we know, these are for the mirror. I can't do anything about those. That one we may or may not use, I'm not sure. Now this is the resin we used, or we mixed up and showed how to rejuvenate it on a previous video. And we're going to see if we can use this to reinforce that part so there'll be very little or no chance it'll crack. Now this is where this job gets a little messy. Just a little messy. We got a piece of scrap and we don't really have to worry if it's exactly an exact fit. Now I don't have to make this fancy or pretty or anything. This is just to reinforce this so number one, it doesn't get carried away with vibration. These parts up in the front, they never cracked or anything, but they certainly were thin. This will be a cheap insurance reinforcement. And again, when something doesn't have to be pretty, there's no point spending a lot of time on it. And this is going to have to dry overnight. This will probably be the last thing we're going to be able to do today. But we certainly have one more piece of the puzzle here. Then tomorrow, when this is all dry, I can pull off the tape and put some glue down in this side so that the parts that'll be touching are going to be solid epoxy. They're not going to be Bondo. The idea is just, you know, Bondo is zero strength. Anyway, we'll just have to see how this plays out in the morning. Once that sits overnight, we'll check it out. Now that resin is going to sit overnight. As soon as I know it's dry and it's not going to drip with drool or anything, I'll put it under a heating vent, but that'll sit overnight. And on the next session, we'll trim it all off and move on to the next step. And good, we got the windshield bolt holes filled in. This is ready, and we got to do the other side of the headlight, and then of course the hard part, we got to get that finish off. That's going to be a time-consuming thing, but I'm sure we'll get it done. So even though our little project took a setback, we're still going to truck on. And this is the end of part 12. Hope you enjoyed the video, and thanks for watching.